Before I came to Norway and on the first few days of going to Norway, I really didn't know what my calling was, but I knew that I was supposed to be on this trip. Knew that if I didn't go, I would miss something big in my life. And so the first couple of days, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew that God had a plan.
I just feel like ever since we got to Norway, God was kind of stirring in my heart, like maybe missions is it for me. But I just didn't know how I was supposed to know for sure. So I started asking Steph how she got to the conclusion that she was called to missions, like what led up to that and how she knew for sure. And basically what she said it boiled down to was this feeling of how can I not do this?
And I just wanted to explain, intercession is not just simply praying, but it's literally crying out for the return of Jesus Christ. And it's crying out for those who don't know God. It's crying out for their salvation. It's crying out for their freedom.
His presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you. Are you Lord God Almighty?
I was walking in the mall and I saw a man and I felt a pit in my stomach, a discernment in my stomach to go speak to him. And I realized there was a language barrier. I pull up my phone and use Google Translate. And I said, hello. And he lights up a little bit and smiles and writes in my phone, hello back in Ukrainian. And I read that in English. I asked him if he knew who Jesus was, and he said no. And so I had the opportunity to share who Jesus was and why he loves Alejandro. I asked him, well, have you ever read the Bible? And he said no. And so I looked at him and I said, well, why not? And he said, because I don't have one. I quickly walked over to my backpack, grabbed my Bible. I knew the Lord was telling me to just hand it over. And he lit up and smiled at me. And he told me that I have a kindness about me. And I told him that was the love of the Lord. And he asked me if he could have that too. And so I decided to write a prayer for him in English and translate it to Ukrainian. That was allowing him to accept Jesus into his heart and choose to follow Christ. He told me that he had a love of the Lord and that he wanted to share that Bible with his friends and his family and generations to come. And because of that, it inspired me so much to pursue a life for missions, because I know that Alejandro is not the only life that is going to change for the Lord.
of ministry is also ministering to those who stay.
Fast forward the next day, we go to the mall, we're handing out waffles to evangelize, and I'm hearing of different stories of an atheist feeling the presence of God for the first time, and a Ukrainian being prayed over, and I was just like in awe of what God was doing. So I like walked back into the walkway, and I felt like God was telling me to like go down there, like go down to the other side of the mall. And I was like, okay. So I kept walking down there and I kept seeing different people, and I was just like, that's not them, that's not them. That's not who I'm supposed to talk to. And then I saw this security guard in the corner, and he was like sitting there texting on his phone. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, that's not who I'm supposed to talk to. I kind of just like brushed off the feeling, and then God just kept pulling me towards him. I couldn't resist going. So I was like, I was making up all the excuses. He's unapproachable, he's on his phone. They didn't seem interested in the Christian thing. So I just couldn't resist it. After making up all the excuses, God still was like pulling me toward him. So I walk up to him and I just said to him, like, you slacking on the job? Because I couldn't think of anything better to say. And he looked up at me and laughed, and he was like, no, actually, I'm reporting 2 girls that were sitting here in this corner using drugs. And I was like, oh. And he was like, yeah, this mall is full of kids who do drugs. I mean, even I've seen as young as like 12, like they do injections, they take pills, like this is their place. And he said, actually, right over there where y'all are set up is where they all go. And I was just like, wow. So I started asking him, like, what do you think about us being here? Are you kind of like annoyed by us? And he said that no, that he loves like street music, and he thinks that we're bringing a lot of like joy to the space, and it's normally super quiet and like dark. And I said, okay, so what do you think about like the whole Christian thing? What do you believe? And he was like, oh, no, 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 like that's not my thing. I don't believe in any of that. I kind of just try to stay in the middle. I wouldn't consider myself an atheist, but I don't believe in any type of religion. And I said, why? And he just told me that he was kind of scared to know what happens. And I just told him, well, the joy that you see in all of us and our team and being here, like, that's God. And I said, once you experience the presence of God, like, there's no denying it. And it just fills the inside of you. And I said, listen, I might not be able to convince you of the gospel of my faith, but there's no way that you could convince me otherwise. I just said, you can say no, but can I pray for you? And he just kind of looked at me like, he was super skeptical of it at first. And he said no to me because he was on the job. And I said, okay, but I just want to let you know I'll be praying for you either way. And he just told me that he just felt like so much light in my smile. And he said that he's never met anyone like me and that there was something different about me. And I said, I promise you, it's Jesus. And once you experience that for yourself, the whole rest of your life will be changed. The whole entire time I'm talking to this guy, like, his face is just lighting up as I'm telling him about Jesus, and I'm holding back tears the entire time. So I'd never seen someone realize the joy of Jesus before. And it just hit me. Like, I was like, how can I not? And so I ran up to Steph and I told her, I just had my how can I not moment. And so now I want to do missions for the rest of my life because how could I not?